Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, did she play games with me after the breakup? I've got an email. This is from a guy. He's 26 years old, and he recently, a couple months ago, broke up with his girlfriend of about 2 years. He says one thing that always really turned him off, and to the point where he didn't even want to be intimate with her, was the fact that when they started dating, keep in mind he's her first ever real long-term relationship. But before they met, she had an extensive sexual history. So by the time she was 23, she had a body count of 40 dudes. She slept with 40 different guys. Obviously was keeping track. That's a lot of people to keep track of. And so you look at that and you say, wow, 40 by the time you're 23, that's a lot of sex with people you care nothing for. Because the reality is, really great close friends, people that you're going to date and have relationships with that you really click with, you really like each other, you really feel like a soul connection where you're completing each other's sentences, thoughts, you have similar goals, similar values, you feel like it's effortless from the time you meet. That like almost never happens. And so for somebody to sleep with 40 different people, especially a woman, because it's not hard for a pretty girl, the average hot woman can go out on a Friday night and just tap the shoulder of any random dude. Hey, you want to go home and have sex? You want to go home and hook up or whatever? Just about 100% of the dudes will be like, sure, let's do it. So it's not hard, but obviously men have to work harder at doing the same thing. So for us guys, when we look at that, we're like, that's not really, she didn't really pull off it. Wow, good for you. But a dude, if he's able to sleep with 40 women by the time he's 23, it's like he's either got the gift of gab or he's incredibly handsome and charming and just naturally set up that way. But the average dude that's 23 ain't got a body count that high. Most guys don't even come close to having a body count that high, especially around that age. And so he always had a problem with it, and it bothered him. But when you look at that, somebody that young having slept with that many different people, that's a lot of sex with people you really don't feel anything for. It's like glorified masturbation. And so it always bothered him and made him feel insecure because I guess apparently he said she was very open about her sexual past and talked about it. And then they had a conversation about it and she broke up with him over that. And part of it was he said he really wasn't, he was so turned off by it, he didn't want to sleep with her. He was just grossed out by it. So what's interesting is after they broke up, they both agreed they weren't going to talk. And then about a month and a half later, she reached out and it looked like she was fishing for some interest. And he was kind of like, oh, it's just for the best that we don't see each other. And I think she said something along the lines of, I'm not ready to see you yet. So he got the impression that in her mind, the breakup was just temporary. And then a few more days or a week or so go by. And then all of a sudden she's posting pictures on social media with her new guy that she's in a relationship with. And he's thinking, what the hell? Why would you reach out and say all these things to me when you're already dating somebody new? And she said it was just basically a like a final goodbye. And I was like, was this girl just playing with me? Like, what the hell? So there's a lot of interesting things going on in this particular case. But the most important thing is how he felt about her before the breakup, which was that he just wasn't into it. He was totally turned off by her having slept with so many dudes. And the fact that she talked about it a lot. The reality is like I've talked about this countless times. It's even in my book, Gentlemen, Don't Kiss and Tell. And guys that start talking about their sexual past, every girl they've kissed or dated or slept with every new woman they date, and then vice versa, listen to her go through every single dude. It's like, you don't want to hear that. It's not going to help your situation. It's information she doesn't need to know. So keep that in mind. So let's go through his email. He says, hi, Coach Corey. Thank you so much for the work you do, which has been really helpful for me. Alas, nobody's ever asked a question exactly like mine. or so he believes. I'm 26 years old, and I was in a relationship with a girl for 2 years until a couple of months ago. I was bedazzled by her as a person. She was nurturing, kind, caring, and patient. The issue was that I struggled to have attraction for her because I was put off by how explicit she was about her sexual past. It's like I was talking about earlier. These conversations are not going to help your relationship. It's not going to make her more attracted to you if you go through every single girl you've hooked up with. Plus, she'll use it against you at some point if you ever have a disagreement or a spat. So it's just best, say, gentlemen, don't kiss and tell. Let them wonder. Women like mystery anyways, and it's really nobody's business. And then vice versa, she's openly talking about all the dudes she banged. He's like thinking, he's not feeling like he's got a girl that's special that really means something in their intimacy. He feels like he just got like the town bicycle, basically. The girl that had been run through by the football team or whatever. In other words, he's not feeling like, well, I really won a prize here. I really got this girl that was very discreet in who she hooked up with. But when a girl is 23 and slept with 40 dudes, it communicates she didn't care about herself. She doesn't value herself. She didn't value her body, and she was just willing to party and give it away to whoever. Now, obviously, we all have the freedom to do that here in the United States of America, but the reality is you could tell he's turned off by it. He wasn't turned on by it. He was totally turned off. And it just sounds like off and on throughout the relationship, she was constantly talking about all the other dudes she was hooking up with. I mean, can you imagine having your friends and your family over and your girlfriend's talking about all these random dudes that she hooked up with? I don't know if she's doing that, but it's like that's just something that you're not going to be like, oh, yeah, my girlfriend, yeah, she's been with 100 dudes. It's like, she's great. No guy's going to be proud of that. And your parents are going to be like, what? Are you dating a hooker? Are you with a hooker? He said she had 40 partners by the age of 23, but I was her first relationship. And I always felt like, quote, it was just my turn, which is something from the red pill community. She's not yours, it's just your turn. In this case, I would say, I mean, it's obvious that's how he felt. He didn't feel like I got somebody really special. I just felt like somebody, she was like a doorknob. Everybody got their turn. And I just happened to be the next guy. He says, I never felt truly comfortable in the relationship. She, in turn, started to lose attraction for me because she could tell I wasn't truly desiring her and was only initiating sex for her sake, not mine. So he was giving her mercy fucks. He was so turned off. He says, we talked about it, and I admitted my insecurity to her with regards to how vocal she is about her past sex life. She felt judged. Hey, 40 dudes by 23, that's a lot. Said I should never have felt threatened by it and broke up with me. So there wasn't much going on there. He didn't want to sleep with her. He was giving her mercy fucks. Wasn't that into it. He finally, in essence, admitted why he wasn't that into her, which is basically because she slept around a lot. He didn't feel like he had won somebody special. He felt like he just hooked up with the town bicycle. She's like a moped. A moped will get you to where you want to go, but you don't want anybody to see on it. After some sporadic conversation, which ended in us mutually agreeing on no contact, she then sent me an email a month and a half later to tell me that, quote, she truly misses me, but that we should still live apart for a little while longer. And that she hopes she doesn't mess up my mental health by telling me that she missed me. To me, she made it sound like she was viewing the breakup as a temporary thing. Well, it sounds like she was open and hoping potentially that you might want to get back together. Because rejection breeds obsession. And at the end of the day, from her perspective, you weren't interested in sleeping with her anymore. So you were rejecting her. And you were turned off by her high body count. And so she was rejected. But unbeknownst to him at this moment in time, she already had another dude lined up. And more than likely, it wasn't some guy she just met. It was probably some dude, some male orbiter that she kept around. He says, I played it cool and said that I miss her too, but that this seems to have been for the best because I'm working on my physical and mental health, and we end the conversation pleasantly. So his response is basically saying she's communicating she's open. In other words, she's signaling, hey, I'm open to potentially rekindling things. And he's basically saying, hey, it's all for the best. So he rejected her again. A week later, though, I saw her posting pictures of a new guy in her life, and suddenly I felt very confused by her message. I reached out and said, why did you tell me that stuff if you're seeing someone? And she said that it was only ever intended as a final goodbye and that she's not in a new relationship, and also blocked me. So from my perspective, what I see here is that she reached back out because she's seeing somebody else, probably thinking about getting a little more serious, and wanted to see before she got serious with somebody new or started posting things on social media, because then everybody's like, oh, she's with a new guy. She wanted to see if he was potentially interested in rekindling things, and he obviously said he wasn't. And so therefore, he rejected her again for the second time. Which, I mean, he'd been rejecting her for the same reasons, being that he just wasn't into a girl that had a high body count. So he says, what the hell, man? And he says, and why am I finding it so hard to let go if I wasn't even sexually attracted to her? Well, what happened was the reason rejection breeds obsession. So you're thinking, well, she's open to rekindling things. But then all of a sudden you find out now she's got a new guy. And so he gets rejected in essence. And plus she blocks him. So he's thinking, so I can understand why he would say, is she just playing games with me? To me, it was just looking at it was like that was her Hail Mary. That was her one last chance to see if potentially anything could be rekindled. Because women know that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And she wanted to see if he had changed his mind after a month and a half of being apart. And basically, he communicated that he hadn't changed his mind. And so therefore, she was free to move on with the new guy. And she says she's not in a relationship with him, but she's posting pictures of this dude on social media. So she's communicating to the world that she's got somebody new. And so that's what happened. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to go back to where you were when the breakup happened or before the breakup happened. He didn't want to sleep with her because he was so turned off by the fact that she had a high body count. He didn't feel like he had won something or he had got some special girl that very few men had been with. He was with a woman who felt like she didn't value herself and just gave herself away to anybody for a random hookup, whether it was drug or alcohol induced hooking up, whatever it happens to be. So that's all it was. She was like one Hail Mary to see if you're potentially available. You're like, pound sand. She's like, okay, I got a new guy. And more than likely, she was already talking to this new guy before they broke it off. That's probably why she broke it off, because she could tell it was not working out. As he said, her attraction was dropping. So more than likely, because she could tell the end of the relationship was coming and he wasn't making the effort and her attraction was dropping, she was talking to the male orbiters behind this guy's back. Because there's just no way that you go from being in a relationship, and I think they were even living together. Or did he mention that? Well, they were together for 2 years. You don't go from being in a relationship with somebody for 2 years to 5-6 weeks later, now you're posting social media pictures with you and somebody completely new without having lined that up ahead of time. So, and hey, that's normal. And yeah, I would say this chick belongs to the streets for doing that. I mean, even though she didn't say it or admit it, for somebody to go to monkey branch from a 2-year relationship to 5 or 6 weeks later posting pictures on social media with a completely different guy. And more than likely, there's people in her life that didn't even know that she had broken up with her boyfriend. And all of a sudden, she's with the old guy, and then all of a sudden now there's a new guy. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So if you got a question or a challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.